a rocket explodes out in Japan. We've got the most exciting launch of the week that happened, Starlink. Oh yeah, and I guess Starship flew on IFT Flight 3. This is NSF Live. Roll the intro.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger with Planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Fighting down to FT off. Bring in FT off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You good? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Welcome everybody, NSF Live. It has been, to say the least, but it is so good to be back here with the crew talking about all the exciting things going on in the world of rocketry, and I'm sure there's a giant elephant in the room that we will be discussing as well. But I'm not alone, of course, in having all of these fantastic discussions. I am joined by EJ. EJ, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. It is going. I mean, how's your week been? I've lost a little bit of sleep for, no particular reason. It's good.
I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing that happened that caused any of us to not sleep. Yeah. And I'm sure it's probably the same thing for Trevor, who's also joining us, right, Trevor? Nothing keeping you awake at night.
No, I mean, my classes got canceled today, which, I mean, that was really sad. That may keep me up tonight, but aside from that, I slept great every night this week.
Yeah. Again, nothing crazy happening yesterday, a little after 8 a.m. local time in Texas. No, of course not. And we will discuss that shortly. I also want to thank Patrick, who was behind the scenes, pushing buttons, pulling the levers, and everything going on behind the scenes for this at SF Live.
Patrick, don't push too many buttons and levers, okay? Not too many. I'm sorry. Just don't push too many buttons, all right? We were talking about this. Anyway.
With the box wipe transition, I think that may have been that kind of a lever.
He pushed the button. He did it.
And this is Jake. He's my cat. He's going to probably be jumping up a lot over the rest of the show, but there we go. We'll have him jump down for just a moment here. So, of course, we will get to Starship. We will get to your questions. Reminder, you can tag us at NASASpaceflight, and we will do our best to answer as many of them as we can. And before we... Oh, is that a challenge?
Yeah, sorry.
But of course, before we get to that, we did have another rocket make its debut flight this week. It didn't last very long, though, and ended quite explodey. Who wants to take that one here?
Kyros? Oh, I mean, I'll take a stab at it, and then, Trev, I'll hand it over to you. I mean, this thing, the launch looked great for, like, the launch. Right after that, though, it was not great. It was pretty bad. I mean, we don't really know exactly what happened there. We do know that it exploded. I think you can surmise that. You can tell that it exploded because of the way it is. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I mean, okay, so on a more technical note here, something, I don't know, it could have been the flight termination system, or they had a casing failure. That's kind of what I'm thinking. It looks very much like the forward casing, or the forward segment of the not segment, the forward casing on the first stage decided it didn't want to do its job anymore. Now, whether that's due to the flight termination system or not, we don't know. We haven't heard much, and if we do hear something, it's going to be in Japanese. So then we have to translate that. So we have to hear something like twice. Anyway, Trevor, what do you think? Flight termination system, or do you think the casing failed?
I believe we got confirmation that AFTS was triggered on the vehicle. So I don't know if we know exactly what data the vehicle wasn't happy with, but at some point it did trigger its AFTS system, which then caused the vehicle to explode. The good news is, at least visually, after the launch pad seemed to be in decent condition. It also kind of had a Falcon 1 Flight 1 moment where the payload that was on top landed like basically right by the launch pad. So hopefully the company got some really good data that they can use for their second flight. But again, it was a maiden flight. It was the company's first launch ever. So frankly, a failure was kind of to be expected here. Then let's just hope they got good data.
And let's also hope they have good insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it looked so smooth at first. That thing zipped off the pad, and then
the ignition looked great. It was really good ignition. I mean, that's one of the most critical things with the SRB, right? Is right when you turn it on, like engine start. This thing looked great. Now, I mean, I don't know if it. I mean, I made a mistake a little bit earlier, guys. They did that the flight termination system did go on, so it wasn't a casing failure. My fault. I've been distracted by other news this week, to say the least. But yeah, okay, so it was flight termination system. So yeah, I mean, Trevor, you said something wasn't happy with it, right? So I mean, it could be off nominal guidance. It could be a conservative parameter for the termination system. That's a thing, right? Like you set the parameters tight, and if it just skirts going out of its track for a second, just bye-bye.
It certainly looks from this video that Patrick is playing, like it veered over really quickly, right there. That seems like pretty rapid. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was slightly off nominal and that's what triggered it, but I'm not a rocket scientist.
I think we saw the payload get shot out the top there.
Yeah.
I think the satellite came off.
Yeah, that's a problem if you're trying to get it into space and it detaches like that. For some reason, this reminds me of that the famous, I think it was the Delta 3 launch.
We've had an anomaly.
Yeah, exactly. That was the first thing that went through my head seeing that.
Dude, yeah, no, I'm right there with you. That's why I was talking about casing failure. I was like, huh. There was a Delta 2 launch in 97 that did this, and turns out there was a crack in the casing, and it did exactly that.
So Alex is clarifying in the back channel that the way that AFTS works on this vehicle is that it breaks the motor at the top, so it looks like a casing failure at the top. So you're half right, but the reason was because it was AFTS triggered, not because the booster or something like that triggered. So yeah, that was a good observation. Good.
Yeah, no, their termination system is right at the forward dome on that casing. And actually, because in Japan they were using an interlaced picture, like when I was scrubbing through it, we were able to see right where it exploded because it kind of had an in-between frame between interlacing. If you know how that works, right, you get kind of in between frames, and we saw exactly where the explosion came out.
Nerds.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Oh, nothing. But I'll be honest, for those who don't know what this company was even going for and what the rocket is, was this a solid rocket, a liquid-based rocket, mixed, Carolox? What do we got on it? Don't tell me I stumped everyone.
I believe. No,
I know. I was waiting for Trevor.
It's a 4-stage vehicle. I believe the first 2 are solid, and the final stage is liquid.
We have, I think, 3-stage SRB with a hypergolic liquid upper stage.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. You need with the solids doing a pinpoint insertion. So why is it like that? There are other all solid rocket vehicles, like Vega, for instance, that do something similar. The Vega has the Zafiro first, second, and third stages, and then it has the Evum upper stage, which is using unsymmetrical dimethylhydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide. Now, why do you need liquid fuel for the top stage? Like, once again, it's for pinpoint insertion. With liquid fuel, you have throttle ability, right? At least to an extent. It depends on your manner of actuation for your engine, right? Like, these are, the Avum upper stage, like on Vega, for instance, is pressure fed. So you get pretty good control. It's basically RCS. Like, it's not RCS, I know. But it's a hypergolic engine where you can basically click the thing on and off, right? Similar to RCS. And that can get you a more precise insertion. You don't want to use a solid rocket motor for like pinpoint characteristic energy usage, right? Because you probably not going to get that right. There's always perturbing forces when you're going up into space, and solids are kind of a brute force way of getting things up there.
I mean, it works, but yeah, that whole the transitions. I'm sorry.
Oh, they're great. I love them.
I mean, yeah, it gets up there, but those things are, you light them and you say goodbye. There is no turning it off. It's going or it's blowing.
There are some vehicles, though, that do have a solid insertion stage. Like Cygnus is a pretty famous one, where the first stage is liquid and then the second stage is solid. And the way that they're able to get anywhere close to an accurate orbit with that is they do a test firing on the ground where they, make a big batch of the sludge that goes in these SRBs, or in the solid second stage. And then they burn it on the ground and figure out what are the exact properties of this sludge mixture that we made, since it changes a little bit. And then from there, they're able to have the first stage shut off, determine on what the performance of the second stage is going to be. When normally it's right, you get everything you can out of your first stage, get rid of it, and then your second stage determines when it can stop burning. So it's definitely an interesting thing that some companies are choose to do.
Yeah, I mean, and then after that, you have Cygnus on top, which uses its onboard systems to get into the precise orbit. But yeah, dude, that Castor 30 XL on Antares, good call.
Yeah, I mean, that also did its own little flip maneuver at one point when it wasn't really supposed to, but yeah.
Whoops.
And by the way, you've got a bunch of people in chat, Trevor, saying that you should be an honorary rocket scientist at least.
I don't think so. I think that would be an insult to everyone who worked hard to actually learn how these vehicles work.
I mean, we read books and stuff. That's something.
Sure, maybe not learn how they work, make them work.
Fair enough. Okay, so basically, Trevor, don't give you the Bernie aluminum that goes inside. Got it. Let's see if we have any questions from you guys in particular about this launch. A couple of people noting, like you were saying earlier, about that tilt that it had on its way up, that it seems a little too much.
It may have been a little too much, but there are other vehicles that are all solids that do a pitch over, and it's a steep pitch over right out of the hole. Minotaur 4 and Minotaur 5 do that. When you have the thrust of weight on your vehicle at your disposal like that, if you have it on tap, you can afford to grab turn a little bit early. In fact, the shuttle did the same thing. The shuttle's pitch over was nuts. If you look at some of the onboard footage of that thing, like going up and then turning, it's pretty dramatic for what it is. The shuttle's a lot bigger than Kyros here, but yeah, so it's kind of hard to see it. But with these shots that we have from the launch here, yeah, you can see that thing pitch over real quick. But that, when you have high TWR, that's what you can afford to pitch over, a lot steeper.
Yeah. While we have a sec here, I do want to not answer my phone, but I'd like to thank some people who have been generous already before the stream even started here. Paul Moore, thank you for becoming a launch director. We've got a couple of people becoming launch directors here. Mark Hardman, thank you very much for the generous support from both of you. You'll get your names on at the end of NSF Live. You also have access to the Discord, all of that and more, and our greatest gratitude and thank you, both of you, for the launch director. And then
also steely-eyed
also
missile men and women. Anyway,
let me see
sorry.
your eyes. They don't. Are those steely?
I mean, I don't know. You tell me.
You're from Boston. They're steely. It's fine. Just different kind of steel.
Not sure if insult or compliment.
Yes.
I do think, by the way, back to something that EJ, you were saying just a moment ago about some of the Minotaur launches. It does look a lot like Minotaur 4, like you were saying, where this thing just shoots off the pad. So this was NROL 129.
This is a great mission, dude.
Yeah, July of 2020. And you can see it just tilts on over and goes.
Dude, that thing went supersonic in like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Dude, that's no joke.
Yeah.
It's going real fast.
Yeah, the Minotaur is like, it started off being an ICBM more or less. So they wanted to just be able to launch instantly and go really quickly. And then they were like, wait, we could also, not destroy an entire area with this and put something in orbit. And that's where Minotaur came from.
I mean, that's par for the course for a lot of the U.S. space program. I mean, you go back to the earliest launch vehicles that we had, Atlas, Titan, the entire Gemini program. Those Titan boosters that they used were made from a block buy for ICBMs. So like the Atlases that wound up being like Atlas Agenas and that launched into in the late 60s going into the 70s, those were all Atlas D and Atlas Fs. Atlas D, E, and Fs that were ICBMs, but they were taken off station because they didn't want to deal with cryogenic propellants. So, then they moved to Titan, and they built all the Titan. Well, they built Titan 1s out, and then they built Titan 2s out. But all the while, they were block buying these things. There's famous footage out there somewhere, pictures of the Convair factory that has like probably about 50 or 60 Atlas D missiles just like on an assembly line. So, I mean, we've been doing that for a long time. The crazy thing about that is that L129, that booster was like 30 years old. It was built in the 90s, like the early 90s.
Yeah. What was the first U.S. vehicle that wasn't really derived from an ICBM? Was it like the Saturn program?
You could count Saturn 1B if you want, but even the tankage on the Saturn 1B's first and Saturn 1 and Saturn 1B first stage is still made from the tooling from leftover ICBM stuff. So I mean,
really,
I guess
it's like
5.
Shuttle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Saturn 5 or maybe Shuttle, something like that.
Well, I mean, Shuttle, you have the SRB is still
right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they made them SRBs because we're making a lot of ICBMs with solids, so it only makes sense.
Oh,
right.
Anytime you move to helium, though, that's like very far away from ICBM territory.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That is true, yeah. And then really quickly, Blake, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. And Elizabeth, thank you as well for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. If you got one of those, please make sure to give them a huge thank you. And I think we were measuring wrong with how fast that's going. I think we need to use the yeet factor.
Yeet. I mean, it's not sprint, but it's close. Patrick, I don't know if you could pull up that sprint, like footage of a sprint missile going off. Sprint is fast. Yeah, fast. You can actually see shock heating building up on the nose cone of a sprint when it went up into space, which is pretty quick. Also, Jake. Hi, Jake.
Yeah, Jake does not want to leave me alone tonight. This is the third time in about 20 minutes that he's jumped up on here, so apologies in advance. Cuteness in advance, I guess, as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, continuing along here.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Watch this. This is great. Yeet! Dude, look at that thing. That's awesome. Watch the nose cone, Trev.
Oh, don't eat my
Yo, shock heating. That's awesome. It's so good, man. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. It's so good.
It's just,
It's like, I'm gone.
Just, whoop. It's like, no, that is not sped up footage. That is just ridiculousness.
It's just that fast. No, that was not sped up, chat. No, that was Actually, if anything, that was slowed down. Sprint was like gone, just gone.
Yeah, I'm amazed the camera kept track of it too, honestly.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, that thing is just lumbering off the pad. It's like, okay, I'm going now. All right.
Yeah, that's more of a yee than a yeet.
We got a 0x0. Trev, is your mic okay?
Yeah, apparently I was muted. Sorry about that. I was saying that the other end of the spectrum, you had like Saturn V, which had a thrust-to-weight ratio off the pad of epsilon more than 1. So it was just so slow, and then gradually started accelerating quicker.
Big dog. Takes a second to get going, but once it gets going, it's going.
It did cool things.
I can't think of any other vehicle that would do anything like that either.
Yeah, go for main engine start. 3, 2, booster ignite. Yeah, no, me neither.
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, without the solids, that wasn't going anywhere, but...
Yeah. You don't want to get thermal curtain failure. That would be bad. If you know, you know. Ooh,
yeah, I know. My
E8.
neighbors do not want a curtain failure. I agree.
Nice. All right, that was pretty funny.
I love this shot of Saturn V, seeing the film cooling on the engines.
Yep.
It's like the most clear example ever.
Yeah, it's wild. I love it how, and we did see this with Kyros as well. You get an initial overpressure when you start up those engines, right? And it blows smoke up out of the flame trench. And then, once the engines get fully going, it turns the mount on the ML in the flame trench into a giant Venturi, and it creates vacuum. It sucks everything right back down. You did see that during the ignition with Kyros. Patrick, if you switch back to the Kyros launch, it popped for a second, like you got your igniter smoke from the igniter going, and when the SRB went off, and then it just went right back down into the trench. Turns into a giant carburetor, except more flamey. It's not a carburetor. You don't get atomization down there, but it's a Venturi. It's close. Stop looking at me like that, chat. Jeez.
We're representing chat for you with the stare down. Disappointed.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
I don't know. What are we gonna do?
I don't know.
I think what we can do is move on along to our next topic here.
Nice segue. Thanks for saving it. We were on a sinking ship there for a second.
Hell yeah.
Row.
Anyway,
we're pivoting.
I was going to say back on the rails, but this show is never on the rails on Fridays now.
Yeah, it's mostly because of me. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's a joint effort of insanity.
Oh, all right. Sweet. Join me.
We do want to just make a quick note that we know that the Starlink 6-44 mission is still scheduled. I believe as of now, the current T0 is 8:21 p.m. Eastern time. I know that it's been slipping in the window a little bit. We had that first flight, the first attempt where the clamps that are kind of around the fairing didn't want to open. Then we had the scrub yesterday as well. So right now they are targeting 8:21 p.m. Eastern time with backup opportunities available until 10:39 p.m. Eastern. And there are more tomorrow if needed. Because I know that is the mission everyone wanted to talk about here, right? Tell me all your favorite things now about Starlink 644.
I mean,
I'm super excited for.
Yeah.
Starlink proved itself to be just incredibly amazing on a certain other mission. So therefore, Starlink allowed for us to get plasma footage. So, hey, exciting launch, right?
Yeah, I'm in. I mean, to build off that, so Starlink 644. So A, Starlink from 39A. You don't see that very often. And B, Booster 1062 is the first stage. This will be its 19th flight. This is why it scrubbed 2 times, and I'm like, oh, okay. Now, okay, 19 flights. So have there been other SpaceX boosters that have flown 19 times? Sure.
This will be the third.
Yep, exactly. The third? Yeah. So
Yeah.
we've had other
1058.
ones. Yeah, 1058 was the life leader until its life ended from ocean. No, the one that had flown the most previously was 1058. Unfortunately, when it landed out on the drone ship, rough seas, tipped over, which that was not cool. But hey, 1062, right there with it.
Yeah, it's interesting how 58 and B1060 were like trading off being launch leaders. So they were both kind of going together. Sometimes 58 would fly first, sometimes 60 would fly first. And now B1060 hasn't had its 19th flight yet. It's still at 18. So I wonder if they're having to do more refurbishment than, on other flights, or if they have a special mission coming up for it soon. We don't know, sadly.
I mean, it's interesting because there was a post by an employee at SpaceX about how 1058 didn't have some type of auto leveling system on it, and how newer Falcon 9s have auto levelers. And if it had an auto leveler, this would have been fine. I honestly, I don't know what that means. I've never heard anything about that until that was mentioned. And that just could be me, like kind of all over the place with this stuff. But I've never heard of any type of auto leveling stuff. It's got to be just one of those things that SpaceX is doing to improve Falcon 9 reliability that we just don't hear about. We know they're messing with the trajectory all the time from, like the telemetry that you see on the casts. They're definitely trying new ascent trajectories. They're expanding the envelope of like wind conditions and weather conditions that Falcon 9 can launch in, but you don't really hear about any of that. I didn't know that the thing had some type of auto leveler in it. I'm like, all right, well, if it has that. Of course it has that. Why wouldn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. Now, I think there's one other topic that we wanted to discuss tonight. I think it has to do with a empty launch pad that you see right there on your screen, following the successful flight of the third flight of Starship from Starbase, Texas. Gosh, yesterday was unbelievable. More replays, yes, please. Always love seeing that launch. I mean, talk about a beautiful mission and getting way farther even than Flight 2. I mean, what were your initial thoughts first, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty details.
Trevor, I don't know about you. Sawyer, I don't know about you. My initial thought was, that's flying. Oh, all right. Corbin, it moved. Oh, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole mission, I was just kind of dumbfounded by what was going on. Like, I reverted to caveman brain. I was covering it over on my end on the Twitch stream. Hi, Twitch people. How are you? And I was covering over there. Honestly, that VOD is just me going, the entire time. Trevor, what about you?
Yeah, I think my first thought was before they started prop load, I was like, oh no, all of these delays are going to push it till tomorrow, since they, kept adjusting the T0 by small amounts. And they had a window, but it was only 110 minutes long. So they didn't have too much time to work issues. But that said, once they got into prop loading, I was first of all blown away that they didn't have to hold at that 40-second hold point. Right. Going right on through that into ignition of the engines was like something that's frankly crazy to say. This is the only the third flight of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And then, as soon as you see this tip start to move, the excitement started building. And then when you could verify all 33 had successfully lit again, that was awesome. And then keep this short, the next part that just blew me away was when we started seeing that little bit of orange on the flap of Starship. And at first I thought, this is a weird effect they added to the stream. And then I was like, as it started building in intensity, I was like, holy cow, that is like plasma building around the vehicle. And that must be the coolest live views I have ever seen.
Yeah, that's definitely Definitely up there. I mean, Sawyer, you can attest to this too. We're from the shuttle era, right? Like we definitely had shots inside of the shuttle during NASA coverage of shuttle entry, descent, and landing in the past. Definitely had shots on the inside. And there was an experiment that was fitted to Shuttle Columbia in the 90s or late 80s, early 90s called the Silts Pod, which was actually a camera mount up on the vertical, up at the very top of the vertical stabilizer on the shuttle, looking down at the wings. And that was an optics package, but they only used it for a little while, and then they took it out. And the pod was up there until Columbia's final mission, right? So we did see re-entry footage with the shuttle. It was a thing, but not like this. Not like this. This was on another level.
It's orange.
It is orange.
And
it's also backward.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The other thing with the Silts Pod is they never really broadcast that live. I mean, we never really got to see this glow live, and yet with like we were talking about before, the thanks of the Starlink network and how that's beefed up, the fact that we could actually see the plasma forming and growing, even as it gets later on, where you can see the plasma interacting with the signal from the camera coming back down to mission control. It's just, I mean, this is something that you never get to see live. Maybe they'll stick with, like for Orion, for the first flight, they had a camera inside the window showing this, but this is a whole nother level.
Nothing like this. I mean, and also the fact that, Dan Hewitt during SpaceX's cast, which was the gentleman that had all the boosters behind him on SpaceX's cast, he was a PAO for NASA for a long time. Great commentator. He provides really good information. He was saying that this thing was broadcasting through Starlink and TDRS at the same time, which is crazy. I'm not the best at this, but I'm pretty sure that's how we got these really high bandwidth pictures being streamed to us in real time. You can use TDRS for telemetry and Starlink on top of that. That's going to give you enough bandwidth to get high def through a plasma shock. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was also interesting that they weren't really, like, they had set the expectations somewhat low about what shots we were going to get during reentry. So I was kind of like, we'll maybe get data and that's it. And then when they bring us this live, like, I honestly just was like losing my mind, and I still can't believe that these views are real.
Yeah.
Like, imagine telling SpaceX 22 years ago when they were founded, like, in the future, you're going to be launching the most powerful rocket ever by a factor of 2, with communicating with over 6,000 satellites that you launched on your previous generation rocket that has been, reusable up to 20 times or so now. And all of that was done privately.
It's blown.
Yeah, and so Starship Flight 3 launched on the 22nd birthday of SpaceX. For the people that don't know that, it launched 22 years to the day of the company's founding. They did talk about it at the end of the cast.
Yeah. And Kate Tice had the amazing Taylor Swift reference, which on an official SpaceX stream was like just the cherry on top.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but that was too much.
No. I mean, Trevor, you must have loved that.
Oh, yeah.
You must have loved that.
Oh, just the views of that. Again, I think that's something that was also really interesting in particular about this launch, just from the perspective of viewing it, is the amount of cameras that we got. I mean, besides the fact that you've got this one on the tower here that is just, I could watch that all day. I mean, we saw so many little details. We were able to see the hot staging from on board one of the fins there. You had the grid fins moving around that we saw on the first stage of the booster. I mean, this felt like a totally different launch from a visuals perspective. I don't know if you felt the same way, EJ.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, just some of the, as you know, I'm echoing Trevor's words here, but the footage of the plasma shock accumulating underneath the wings, like, it's not shock accumulating underneath the wings, but the plasma that was accumulating there, like the views were insane. Even the views from just on orbit with the sweet elevator music in the background. I didn't know I needed elevator music with low Earth orbit views. I didn't know I needed that until that point. That's a thing now. I want more of that. Please, more. Like, that was awesome. I don't know why, but it worked. It's a sweet elevator, right? Like,
Yeah. Doesn't have to know how it works, just that it worked. Although I think I need to be changing my Spotify playlists now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, dude,
I
even
think-
look at these shots here. Like,
The
go ahead,
mock-
Trevor. Sorry.
The mock diamond.
Oh, it's so good.
My
Oh my
overall vibe with this, whole launch campaign into launch is like, this finally feels, like it's approaching an orbital vehicle, a vehicle that will take customer payloads to orbit. The process up to launch was overall rather clean. They only did 4 stackings. They only did one static fire. They didn't seem to have a lot of the small issues that they had with B9. And then Ascent looked super clean and, got further with booster and reentry, got ship on orbit. Did lose attitude control from what we can tell, which we can talk more about here in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it really struck me as that this vehicle is becoming real.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with you 100%. It feels different. We were at an impasse, like not an impasse yesterday. We were at an intersection yesterday. We took a left. We took the left at Albuquerque, man. This definitely, it feels different. Seeing that thing up in space, opening up the payload bay door, and folks in chat saying, they opened up the payload bay door and seeing all the stuff get vacuumed out. We are, and then the plasma views on top of that. We're something feels different. I don't know if I can put my finger on it, but we're on the precipice of like ridiculousness for low Earth orbit access here. It's nuts.
That should be the new slogan instead of Gateway to Mars. The precipice of craziness.
Precipice of craziness. You heard it here first.
By the way, shout out to Sean who shot that footage, the slow-mo that you just saw of that liftoff. The team that was out there did a ridiculously amazing job covering this launch too. So I just want to give a huge shout out to them. And of course, we'll be sure to shout out all of the people whose video we get to show on air from our amazing team. So just wanted to point that out.
Good dude.
Yes. Including, we've got this launch video right here as well from D, who was out in the field. D Wise.
Yeah. That's Derek's footage. He did real good. Real good.
They did
especially
phenomenal.
The tracking camera. Yeah, watch this, guys. This gets ridiculous.
Unintentional tracking camera. That was just the force that knocked it over, but you could still see it through the clouds.
Hey, I'm not complaining. This is real good.
Oh no complaints. It's just
this is
it's a Starship assisted track.
Yep. That sounds good.
I enjoyed Das's tweet of "This is AutoTrack V2."
Yep. That's why I said it exactly.
Exactly. And all of them, by the way, do have metal prints from the launch now available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. So if you had one that you thought maybe you saw as a favorite on their socials, or you want a commemorative one, check out the metal prints section. There's some really, really amazing ones that the team got up yesterday and today, and it's just beautiful. You can see some of them right there. I mean,
Chris, you all right? Chris, you okay?
What?
He's fine. He's fine. Typing is hard.
What?
In the chat.
Oh.
I mean, it was quick on the draw, but
yeah. Again, like I said, typing's hard.
Which Chris? Well, that Chris. Not that. No, not you. That Chris over there. See what I'm talking about? Not that Chris. That Chris.
And that wasn't Patrick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick.
Funny to
boy.
me. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Let's take some questions for a minute here, because I know we've been getting a lot of questions asking as we've been going through here. I want to make sure we hit some of those. While we were looking at that kind of re-entry footage with the plasma and everything, it really seemed like it was rolling a bunch. And Mooner Eclipse asking, what do you think caused that roll to not stop on re-entry? Do you have any speculations, Trevor?
Yeah, it definitely seemed like after the propellant transfer demo, they kind of seemed to not have a whole lot of control of the vehicle, and that ultimately led to them even canceling the Raptor relight demo that they had planned. So this could be for any number of reasons that we don't know. It could be a valve that was stuck. It could be a valve that was stuck, closed, or open. It could be I think this is unlikely, but it's possible that they ran out of gas or they had slightly less control than they expected. But we're really not sure. I was a little bit surprised that once the plasma started forming, there wasn't more control authority from those fins that they could use to orient the vehicle. But yeah, definitely during coast, they did not have any attitude control of the vehicle, and that's especially clear of if you stabilize the video. I saw this on X. Then the whole vehicle if you stabilize like the Earth's motion, the whole vehicle is like going around in a circle, and it's like, yeah, that's not nominal, but still, right, this is a test flight. There's a reason why SpaceX put this in a suborbital orbit, and there's a reason why they wanted to, they said at the beginning of the streams, these are ambitious tests, and I'm sure they got a buttload of data, and that data is what's going to allow Flight 4 to probably do all of these things successfully. Because just look, everything that failed on Flight 1, they nailed on Flight 2. Everything that failed on Flight 2, they nailed on Flight 3. So this just shows that, this is the philosophy that SpaceX is going for on this vehicle, and I think we can expect more failures before they successfully, splash a ship down. But they're getting further and further, and this is what's going to allow this rocket to be revolutionary.
Yeah. Also, I'd like to add that buttload is an industry term. I've heard people in the industry say that.
Is that imperial or metric buttload?
Well, material.
Sure, that's a thing.
Yeah.
It was also interesting to see just the thrusters actually firing in space. First off, which just venting some of the onboard gas there. I think that's really cool to prove that worked. But we saw a lot of it during the flight, and then that end of flight, though, it seemed like there was a lot of fighting with everything, like you said, between the flaps moving and those thrusters. But it was nice to actually see them finally working in space too.
Now, actually, boys, I got a question. Chet, fill me in here. Like, because I'm not sure. Like, did they carry the LOX ballast this time like they did last time? If so, do you guys think that them venting the liquid oxygen overboard could have caused this roll rate? Like, because, yeah, clearly, right when it got up there, it was all right. It seemed to be okay. There wasn't really a roll rate. And then it kind of happened somewhere during the coast. And obviously, I don't think they would vent the liquid oxygen on the way up like they did before. That didn't end well. So do you think it was them dumping the liquid oxygen, the excess that they were using for ballast?
If that's the case, then they've got to change that procedure entirely again. But I honestly don't think so.
Yeah, it's just something that I was kind of noodling in my head. Like, it's possible, but clearly you'd want to take the LOX ballast in there because we saw from the internal views there was no payload in this thing when the door opened. It's still amazing we got shots inside of a payload bay with a payload bay door opening. Sawyer, I don't know about you. I never thought we would see that again.
No.
And we did. Yep. Which doesn't suck. That was pretty cool. So, Yeah, what do you guys think? You don't think so? Something got stuck? Yeah, I mean, yeah, something. It kind of seems like something may have broke. But yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
maybe,
think.
yeah.
I think the only time they would vent oxygen is on the way up, because you want, during that time, like that extra little bit of force is essentially zero compared to the force of those 6 Raptor engines. When, once you're on orbit, like you're saying, that would not be as big of a, that would be a bigger problem.
Oh yeah, it's. But Alex, I do want to say, made a really good point in the back channel here through all this as well, that we always try and emphasize that these vents that we hear, exclamation point, vent, vent to, all that, they're going to be important once it finally gets into space and has to maneuver. And I think this was the proof that yes, it was extremely important. And with the exception of the reentry portion, it appeared that it kept it oriented well. It kept it maneuvering to do the payload door test or that fuel transfer test. I mean, it's crazy to think that we just fuel the rocket up a little bit more and that's what we'll use to steer. And that idea just kind of works. That still boggles my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
One other thing that really stood out to me on this, that we learned from SpaceX's webcast, is I believe it was Kate Tice mentioned that the landing burn is going to start with all 13 center engines. So that thing is just going to, because the booster does not mass much at that time, the deceleration on booster during landing burn is going to be ridiculous.
So
Yeah.
we got, yeah, I mean, we saw right when they were relighting, the relight wasn't that far off from the point where we lost, they lost the feed, right? They lost the feed from that super heavy booster. Now, we did get some clarification from SpaceX. They said the flight termination system triggered about, I think it was like 400 meters and change off the deck. And I mean, even the speed there, coming up to the point of engine light for landing with all 13, which, Trevor, I agree with you. That's ridiculous trying to do that. I mean, that's a lot more complicated than just, all right, right click, start engine, throttle up, we're good, right? It is a crazy maneuver. I mean, but then again, right, like Super Heavy does not have any supersonic retro propulsion. There's no entry burn. This thing's just coming in hot. It is a crazy maneuver that we're going to see. This thing's going to come down like a missile, and then it's just going to stop at the last second. It's not going to be clearly like some prolonged landing burn like what you see with Falcon or like even New Shepard or something, right?
Yeah. This is definitely unique. And I mean, this goes along. Patrick Leon was asking what happens to that booster on the return. It seemed that the velocity was increasing instead of slowing down, which, I mean, if they're activating the FTS, it's got to be a little bit faster. But at the same time, though, this wasn't expected to really be a nice, super gentle splashdown, just kind of a test of the re-entry burn and that landing burn type scenario. I think the fact that that landing burn worked exactly as it was supposed to, that is just so cool to finally see, and then see it coming down and the grid fins doing their thing. I think even though they ended up having to push the button, well, the automation above the deck.
Sorry, messed up again. Thinking about too many different launch vehicles. This one actually had a RUD, so
yeah,
if it's rudding, that means the engines weren't happy. But yeah, well, my fault.
SpaceX didn't clarify. They just say that it detonated above. Let me get their exact wording. The booster's flight concluded approximately 462 meters in altitude and just under 7 minutes into the mission. Super Heavy successfully lit several engines for its first ever landing burn before the vehicle experienced a RUD. So they don't really give us why, but my guess would be like an engine hard start or something like that. But
if they said in the mission, I mean, a lot of folks in chat are saying if they said that the flight termination system was safe, like, I mean, even with Falcon 9, it would have been safe at this phase during descent, right? Mm-hmm. I would say hard start, and it looks like those grid fins are kind of steering overtime there. I mean, you prop slosh maybe. I mean, that thing, you don't want to create a vortex inside of there. That would be not good for starting the engines.
Yeah, definitely not in that case. But I mean, that got pretty darn close. Even with that, if the issue was just a relight at the end there, I think the biggest thing was getting that entry burn to begin with. I think that clean separation, getting that entry burn, is a ginormous step when it comes to the reusability of this down the line.
Boost back burn, not
Boost back, sorry. Yeah.
We're so used to Falcon and its entry burn.
Right.
Yeah, that's still scheduled to launch in a little bit, so my mind might be slightly thinking of that too.
Yeah, there's so much space information, dude. So much. I'm having trouble keeping track of everything.
Patrick, can we go back to, I guess we're about to be landing burn, because it certainly seems to me like they didn't have as much control as they wanted. Right, we see the grid fins trying to fight the tilts of the booster, but like couldn't keep up, or maybe it was doing too much. Maybe a grid fin stalled, something like that. We have no idea, but it certainly didn't seem like the grid fins had full control authority before those engines ignited anyway. Like this is very aggressive movement compared to what we've seen on Falcon. This oscillation.
Yeah, their control parameters might not be dialed in. It's not like they have much experience with this thing, right? So just in case anybody's wondering, well, like, what are control parameters? So, the guidance computer is going to tell the grid fin to turn, right? If it senses it's rolling in one direction, it's going to talk to the grid fin and say, hey, move. Now how much that's going to move, that really depends. And the only way, that's one of those things where you can do simulations all day, but that's one of those things where you just kind of have to send it and let it go and see what happens. Like I agree. I think the grid fins were making some really, really, really crazy movements. I don't know what to do with my hands. Sorry. They were making some really crazy movements, and I think the parameters are obviously not dialed in. But if that's not a hardware problem and it's a software problem, I can't predict the future. I don't really try to get inside information or anything like that. But if it's a software problem, they'll have that dialed in by the next launch, which I am very much jonesing for. Really need that.
If our viewers are interested in learning a bit more about how this works, I'd recommend, I don't know much about it, but I know it's what's mainly used, a PID control loop, which stands for proportional integral derivative controller. Yep. And that's what allows them to really try to work out the oscillations. I don't understand the theory behind it, but some of you may be interested in it, so may as well bring it up.
Yeah, the medium in which the computer talks to the grid fin actuator is using that. It's using a PID. That's basically, I'm telling you to move, how much you're going to move, how fast you're going to do it, and how much you're going to overcorrect or undercorrect to desired position. It's just the parameters for how that movement is governed. PIDs are everywhere in engineering. Industrial, obviously software that governs industrial, mechanical, aerospace, it's all over the place. PID, yeah. If you want to really start nerding out, look up PIDs. Your brain will go.
Can I just remind you? ! English. We only speak English in this chat here, not whatever language that was.
The people in chat are talking about how awesome PIDs are. So,
yeah, somebody mentioned drones in chat. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to govern the rotors and the motors on a drone to spin at the right RPM for stabilization. That's all done through a PID.
I mean, when I watch NASCAR, they go to a PID stop. Is that the same thing?
Sure.
There we go. Yay. All right, a little monkey inside my brain's happy now.
I mean, dude, you see the hat I got on. I mean, if you want to talk about that, the software governing the gauges on the NASCARs is controlled by a PID.
Oh my gosh.
How do you think it expects to tell you how fast you're going in deceleration and acceleration, like the gauge moving back and forth? It's all digital nowadays. What do you think? What do you think's controlling that? Right? Yeah. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, because I don't even watch NASCAR. I was just making a joke.
Oh, really? Oh,
That was
come
just
on,
for a
man.
pun token.
The Phoenix race was awesome. It was a great race. All right. Okay. All right.
See, everyone's talking about how these are normal in an engineering course, and I'm just a math and physics major, so thankfully, I haven't had to learn about them.
My degree is in broadcast journalism. Take that as you will.
I've played enough KSP to write a thesis about it, like a doctoral thesis. Does that help?
Oh gosh.
No.
While people argue in chat about PIDs for a little bit, I do want to thank some people who have been giving us some very generous support throughout the whole stream so far. JC Tavis saying, "Let's hope the next Starship Flight is Swift, no Taylor," or you, Trevor.
Hey.
Damn.
Hey, what? It says it on the thing. It says for Trevor.
Damn.
I feel called out right now.
As you should. April, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Dalton, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Anonymous, getting an item from shop.nasaspaceflight.com saying send TeslaBot to space.
Agreed.
Chris W, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. I'd rather be flying an X-Wing saying, nice shirt, Sawyer. Looks a lot like one I have. Well, it's almost like they were available right after IFT1 on the shop. I mean, I still love that Danger Van is still alive. Danger Van lives even after 3 flights.
Nice.
Eric, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Chris P1341, thank you for gifting 20 Red Team memberships. Very generous. Astro Joe, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Daniel, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. I love when you guys gift memberships. It gives so many people that otherwise wouldn't get a chance to enjoy the perks enjoy the perks, get to see all the behind-the-scenes pictures, videos, all the extra stuff that gets added for members. So hopefully you get to enjoy that.
And then, you get free parking for your van next to the launch pads. I mean, no. You don't want it to end up like that. Yeah. No, never mind.
Like what, like that?
Yeah, you probably don't want to do that.
Mr. Rich Texas saying launch in person was awesome. See, someone that used their parking pass.
Oh, all right. See, he got free parking. All right.
Here's a question from Steve who says, anyone notice the booster rapidly decelerate prior to engine restart for soft landing? Was the fuel being pushed up so that the engines didn't get enough fuel, therefore failed to restart?
No.
No?
So right when you're falling down, the atmosphere is kind of pushing the vehicle this way, and so if the propellant actually gets like pushed to the bottom of the tank, so it pushes in the opposite direction, the direction that where you want fuel to be, and that's just from the atmospheric drag. So it's actually for the landing burn, you don't really need a propellant settling burn because the propellant is already nicely settled.
There you go. And your very fancy Starship model there, I see.
Yeah.
We gotta get you some rocket models, dude. Gotta get you some rocket models.
I have them, but like they're not easily. Oh, okay.
Just saying.
Oh no, I don't want. I picked it up and I heard a rattle. I don't want to pick it up.
Oh no,
dude! I have a big desk for this reason to get at stuff that I'm going to need to explain things. Like, I got the systems engineering book on tap right here. I have a banana that's probably chroming out. I have a CD player, right? Dude, I've needed it. Trust me. Also, you never know. You got to be prepared. Also, headlight and blinker fluid for all your automotive preventative maintenance needs. Duh. What, you don't have these?
I have a Clementine.
Oh, sweet. Can I have some?
Sure, here you go.
All right. Excellent. Back to rockets.
Yes.
And now on to something completely different.
Thank you, John Cleese. Jimmy
Yes,
J
my
saying, such a proud supporter and channel member. So grateful to be able to donate to such a group of people, dedicated workers, and finally downloaded Discord. Talk to you soon. Yes, definitely.
All right.
Tag us in Discord, in the members Discord if you join. That's for Capcom and above.
Tag Jack as well. I give
Please.
you permission.
Yes, definitely,
Yep.
Jack.
Yep.
Specifically.
Yep. Do it.
Also, tell him his bagels are not bagels.
Do it.
I will not
You
let that
won't.
live down. Next time he is on NSF Live, the bagel battle is going down.
You'll see that on a future NSF Live.
Yes.
I will make sure to this.
We've got TechRan just with a quick off topic here saying, what's with the OLM ring that's at KSC? When they build that? It's been there for a little while, but it seems like it's finally out and maybe getting ready to be moved over to 39A, which, while we talk about 39A for a second, I do want to point out we have just passed the T-minus 20-minute vent for the Starlink 6-44 mission.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Look at that tying it in. But,
You're
yeah,
the Segway king.
I try. But yeah,
Let's just hope the strong back actually retracts today.
Yeah.
minor detail.
It was pulling a Starship tower, just staying there.
Yep.
I mean, it worked for one rocket. What's the worst that could happen with the other except everything? See, look. Tower doesn't move. I promise that it's not moving in between all that smoke there. But it is nice to finally see the actual OLM ring outside, hopefully soon to be moved to LC-39A. So maybe it seems like we're getting a lot more Starship activity down at Kennedy in Florida, especially after such a success like this. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, dude, we could talk about that for days. Like, where do you guys think that's gonna, the OLM that's at the Cape, where do you think that's gonna wind up? Do you think it's going to 39A? I mean, we've heard crazy theories about Slick 50 or LC-37B, 37A. Like, where do you guys think it's gonna end up?
This week we've seen them preparing. They've been doing a little bit of work on the legs at 39A. So definitely going to 39A.
I feel like it's got to be 39A at this point as well. I mean, they've already built the whole tower. They're finally back out there working on the tower.
Yep.
So why not add the ring to the tower? And how many times can I say the word tower in a sentence?
Tower. 39A. Yeah, cool.
More Starship. It's crazy then.
I'm not upset.
Yeah, I'm not sad about it. And this will be the more operational pad. I imagine they've learned a lot from 3 launches and many static fires on the current ring. It'll be cool.
Actually, you know what? We could talk about that one actually, because it's pretty clear that it's 39A. I just wanted to be sure. I just want to point out the absurdity of, starting and sequencing the ignition of 33 engines and how quickly SpaceX has gotten that kind of just figured out. Like, no problem. Like, I don't know if you guys know, like, when you have multiple engines, you never want to fire them at the same exact time. This is why it's called an ignition sequence, right? You don't want to fire all of them at the same time. You can end up shock loading the bottom of the rocket and breaking something. Amongst other things, there's also acoustic things that come into play there and vibrations, et cetera, right? Long story short, they're sequenced. So like even the shuttle had the 3 engines. They fire 1, 2, and 3. It kind of goes. Now the SRBs, they fire at the same time. You wouldn't want one firing and not the other. That would end bad. But for liquid fuel engines, you generally have a sequenced ignition. The fact that SpaceX has just been able to seemingly just have this super heavy booster, 9-meter core, 70-meter tall, methalox, fully cryogenic rocket with full flow stage combustion cycle engines, just managed to just sequence a 33 engine ignition and get it right the second time, and then like completely hit it out of the park on the third try is pretty insane. I mean, I was talking about this earlier on my end on Twitch. That is not an easy thing to do. That is not easy by any manner of the imagination. I mean, and the fact that they're just, nope, yeah, that works. Why wouldn't it work now? Is just completely ridiculous. I mean, that the booster, everything is contingent on that thing working correctly, right? We wouldn't get those crazy views of plasma or those crazy views on orbit, right? If we didn't, if that booster didn't work. The fact, I mean, you know, just dialing in 33 engines, you know, going around the horn and sequencing everything all at once is just, it's ridiculous. That is a ridiculous piece of engineering. And we were talking about the OLM. The OLM is what leverages it. That's what makes it happen. That thing is a lot more complicated than just a donut with a bunch of pipes on it. It is an insane piece of engineering, truly.
Donuts.
Now I'm hungry.
Thanks, EJ.
Sorry, I had it on my mind. Also, you know, like
it's okay, but yeah, I mean, this is finally. Ooh, he's got the model. It's finally cool to be able to talk about the Starship Tower again at 39A and not go if maybe possibly after yesterday's flight. I mean, it seems like it's as good a time as any to go back to full steam ahead at hopefully flying things from the Cape with the rate that they're iterating down there at Starbase.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What I'm looking forward to is to see if they end up shipping a booster and a ship from Starbase by barge over to KSC. I mean, that is going to be quite the arrival if so.
I maintain there's zero chance that happens. Also, sorry everyone for my typing a second ago.
No, it's all good. It's therapeutic. Yeah. I love it.
Why do you say that, by the way, Trevor?
Those vehicles are huge. And, right, you'd either have to, like, structurally reinforce them to the point where you can transport them horizontally, which would not be trivial, or you transport them vertically, which also doesn't seem trivial. It's the journey from Texas to the Cape is not exactly like short.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're talking about like moving a Starship,
at the Cape,
right?
Yeah, once they're at the Cape, how would you get booster and ship off and
transport
them there?
Let's think about this for a second. You're gonna need the infrastructure to get something from Starbase to Brownsville. You need a heavy dock at Brownsville. You could just go down Highway 4. I do believe that SpaceX actually built a road that is designed to move heavy equipment that connects Highway 4 to Port of Brownsville. Now, why Port of Brownsville? It's a deep water port. That's a big one. They scrap aircraft carriers in there. It's a big, deep channel to move heavy equipment and heavy ships in and out, right? So that gets us to the port. Now you're going to need something to move it. You need a big barge, right? So, I mean, I don't see that, like, we've moved bigger things with barges, right? But, I mean, fastening this down, that's going to be, I mean, even a super heavy, Trev, like, I'm kind of with you on that one. How are you going to strap that thing down? But then again, I mean, maybe a big octo grabber, I don't know, maybe an OLM insert, just weld that to the deck of a barge and send it from there. But now you need to get a heavy crane near a dock too. Think about it. You need something that can move a super heavy around. So we're talking about like that Liebherr 11,000 or Liebherr 13,000 with a power boom attachment, that the boom that kind of bows out on either side. You're going to need something like that to move it. Now, once again, I still don't think that's not doable. Like, you could do that, sure. Why not? And there's a great shot of Port of Brownsville. It's a deep water port. That straight road that's at the very bottom left of this picture, right? It's actually a little bit over more towards the left side of the screen. There is a road that SpaceX built that is specifically has a really, really deep subgrade. So yeah, there you go. That's the guy right there. That road has a deep subgrade and it's on elevated terrain. So, okay, infrastructure nerds, if you're with me, deep subgrade, elevated terrain, and then the corners are really radiused on the intersections. That means something heavy and something big is designed to, that road was engineered to move big and heavy things and potentially long things around, right? Like boosters, orbital launch mounts, even like a tanker truck carrying fuel to the pad. So we do have a clear path to Port of Brownsville here. Now from there, where are you going to go? So you'd sail, I mean, obviously you're going to make it to Port Canaveral, right? Where they bring Falcon 9s in. But offloading where they offload Falcon 9s, you're running into the same problem. I mean, they do have heavy cranes there at the port, right? They have big cranes there that are designed to take the Falcon 9 off of the drone ship. But once again, where are you going to move it from there? You have to go through the south gate of the Space Force Station. Are those roads designed to move something that heavy around? This is stuff you really got to consider here, right? Now, I mean, if they have a barge that's the right size, you could make it through the Port Canaveral locks that are on the west side of Port Canaveral. And if you go from there, they can make it to the turning basin, like what the tower segments did. And Patrick, you're going along with me. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much. Right? He's going along. He's anticipating it. This is great, actually. This is really good. I like this. You can make it through the turning basin, which is a heavy port. That was designed to move 10-meter core segments with Saturn V. So you could absolutely do it. But see, Trevor, as you said, that was designed to move Saturn V first stages, shuttle external tanks later, and then SLS cores really much later on their side. We're not talking about height here. There could be some hydrostructures. There could be some wires like that you'd have to move like over the port. Do the drawbridges have enough movement at Port Canaveral to allow a 9-meter core to be vertically transported through there? These are the questions you need to ask. Like, once again, I don't think that's impossible. That would just be a very, very difficult thing to do. That's moving something that's extremely heavy. I mean, personally, like, I think like loading and unloading off of the crane, that's going to be a hard thing to do. I mean, once again, if anybody has the chops to do it, it's SpaceX. Like, they'll definitely, they're not going to get held up by, we can't move the booster over there. That's not the SpaceX. That's not the company we saw launch that thing yesterday. They'll figure out a way. It's like the muscular Doge meme. Like, bro, we'll move it over there. Don't worry about it. Move it over there. It'll be fine.
I have to shout out Patrick during that tracking,
right.
Like exactly what you were saying as you were saying it. That was great, Patrick.
Yeah, no, it was clutch, man. That was really cool.
Very good maneuvering, yeah. I mean, I still want to see that thing just come by barge. They have big cranes. They have big roads. They have big stuff. Big rocket, please.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's going to be really cool when that finally does happen. So, speculation then. I saw the question. I got to find it again. When launch from KSC?
Excuse me. When hop?
What do you guys think really quick here?
We're a little ways off. I'd say maybe the end of the year to get the pad operational. Trev, what about you? It is a unit.
Trevor, I believe you're muted.
Oh, what the? I clicked unmute. I don't know what happened. No, I think end of the year would for OLM readiness at the Cape would be possible. The GSE there has been quite good. They've built that bonkers enormous liquid oxygen tank. The methane side of stuff seems to be going. Right, we've seen as of yesterday, launch ring is about to move. The tower is up, so that part I definitely see being ready by end of year, early next year. The part that I don't see being ready is SpaceX having vehicles. Right, it would take them a long time to start spooling up a production site, and they've kind of halted all progress on Starship production sites at the Cape. And then, as we were just talking about, maybe it's possible to send vehicles over to the Cape, but I'm not super optimistic on that. So, I don't know. I don't really see a launch happening from the Cape until some point toward latter half of next year.
Latter half of next year? Wow, that's a long way out. All right.
Why, you think
I hope
sooner?
that's pessimistic.
I mean, once again, if SpaceX wants a booster or Starship over there, they're gonna get a booster at a Starship over there. If they decide we're doing that, it'll happen, and it'll happen real quick, right? Like,
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong there.
I guess it kind of depends on if they want, how badly do you want it? Do they really need a booster over there? I mean, the reason why I say end of the year, like for pad operations, right? Like to get the pad ready to go is like, even if the pad's ready, I'm not sure they're going to launch something from it right off the bat, right? Like you really want to be sure that you have everything dialed in, at least with the liftoff and Ascent, like which, I mean, it kind of seems that they do now, but you're really going to want to make sure because you're risking critical infrastructure if it's at 39A. This is the reason why I asked that question to you guys a little bit earlier. Is this ring going to 39A? Because that's going to really influence potentially how and when Starship's going to fly. You don't want to risk having some type of problem at 39A inside of the blast detonation area because you're risking, well, quite frankly, right now, one of the only ways to get to the ISS. You wouldn't want to risk that infrastructure. But then again, we do have that crew access arm at 40, so...
Yeah, which, by the way, EJ, I can't wait till the end of the year to see a launch from 39A. How about we head over to 39A right now for the launch
I'm in.
Starlink
Let's
6-44?
Dude, that's where I was hoping you'd go with it.
Oh, you know my transitions. As you can see there on the screen, we're just about 3 minutes away now from liftoff. We have finally made it past one of the previous issues that they've had during the launch attempts, which was the arms that kind of clamp around the vehicle prior to the strong back retract wouldn't open. They are open, and the strong back is retracted the 1.8 degrees or so away from the rocket that it normally does prior to liftoff. It will throw back completely once we actually get to T0 and get all those lines and everything disconnected and pulled and move it all away from the vehicle. So this is another one of those Starlink missions with the 23 V2 mini satellites, and we are getting that much closer to launch. I mean,
so inside of 2 minutes, we should see the second stage LOX load completion and the ground gas closeout happening here, where they purge all the commodities out of the transporter erector here, right, Sawyer? That's where we should be coming up on that here in a second.
Exactly. At about 90 seconds, there'll be a nice big old vent, kind of similar to the T-minus 20-minute best vent. And that one purges all the lines after everything's fully fueled. So you don't want any residual liquid gaseous oxygen or liquid oxygen in there, especially once you ignite things with fire. That could be kind of explodey, so we don't want that.
Yeah, those are called hazardous gases in rocket science for a reason. Gaseous oxygen and liquid oxygen make things blow up real good. Real good.
Oh, really? I thought everyone just kept telling me that I had eaten too many beans when they kept saying has gas.
I mean, hey, synchronicity, man. It's possible that these two things are true at the same time, okay?
We have confirmation that Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
Yep, there's the ground gas closeout.
Exactly, yeah. You can see that vent that is totally normal. Coming up in just a few seconds, we should get confirmation of Falcon 9 entering startup, meaning that the onboard tanks will be fully pressurized to flight pressure, and the computers on board will take control of the majority of the count.
Mm-hmm.
And
right
then
now,
that will be followed shortly by the go for launch, hopefully, from the launch director. So we have 45 seconds or so now until the scheduled liftoff.
Yep, right now, with the command to start, Falcon 9's checking everything on board to make sure all the temperatures, pressures, valves, everything is working correctly. And that's only when that happens, when it signals back to the launch director that you're good to go, that's when the launch director will allow go. We have go for launch, by the way. Excellent. We are now about 15 seconds away. Coming up again, Go ahead. No, coming up about 10 seconds here. We'll see the engines ignite at about T-minus 3 seconds. Let the Falcon, the Merlin 1Ds ramp up to full pressure, to full acceleration, and liftoff. Liftoff of Starlink 6-44. Go, Internet Satellites V2. Go. Send it.
And that is SpaceX's 26th mission of the year, counting Starship.
And the 19th flight for this booster.
The third to reach 19.
Amazing. I'll get a great shot from the port there. Here we go. So we should get a call for power and telemetry here around the 45 second mark. That crackling. I don't hate that. I'm sorry. I just felt the need to say it.
That sound never gets old, yes, as we approach max Q.
Hey Patrick, can you move the image a little bit so we can see the telemetry, dude?
Well, a lot of this is our own tracking cameras as well that we have down at the Cape there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, continuing uphill, max Q, that's maximum aerodynamic pressure, pushing down on the vehicle. They throttle down the engines ever so slightly, or throttling them back up to full thrust as they work their way towards MECO. Which, that is a couple events that happen in rapid succession, and just about 35-ish seconds from now, where you will have MECO, main engine cutoff, the 9 Merlin 1D engines will shut down, followed by separation of the first and second stages, and then the upper stage, the second engine start, SES-1, will continue on its way.
You can see some beautiful flow phenomenon coming off the back there as Falcon 9 gets higher up. The pressure goes down, allowing the gases coming out of the engines to expand.
Yeah, to get that plume expansion is always gorgeous. Everything appears to be looking good so far. Standing by now for MECO.
But I'm sitting, Sawyer.
So am I. Careful. We have main engine cutoff.
And no ring stiffener.
No stiffener again. We have separation and ignition of the Merlin vacuum engine there on the right side of your screen. That is SES-1. The booster, B-1062, is now continuing on its way towards the drone ship, a shortfall of Gravitas, located a little over 600 kilometers downrange. Oh, look at the Earth with the setting sun there.
Beautiful.
Oh, that never gets old.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I love how we're seeing some flow phenomenon from the second stage. The gas is coming out of the second stage over the grid fins there.
And we have payload fairing separation as well.
Yep. Jettison looked good.
So far, so good. It's also really weird now seeing the grid fins back again on the Falcon 9 after paying such close attention to the grid fins on Booster 10 yesterday.
Right.
I can't be the only one thinking of like, wait a minute, this doesn't look like Starship. It's a little different.
Right. They deployed. What is this?
Yeah, they were folded.
Yeah, who does that?
Everything appears to be continuing along well so far. And again, as what's really key to point out is that a lot of the data that we got yesterday for Starship Flight 3 was a result of the upgraded Starlink network. So basically what you're seeing right now is more preparations for Flight 4 already. Right? Technically, right?
Yeah. It is, I think yesterday really served as like the ultimate advertisement for Starlink. And they had that pretty classic, what I think is going to be a classic tweet of Starlink anywhere on Earth, even traveling at 27,000 kilometers an hour through plasma. It's like, yeah, this is enabling some pretty cool capability for sure.
At that point, they're just showing off. Like, oh yeah, it works even through plasma. Don't try this at home with a little asterisk next to it.
Right? The throughput that we were getting is just absolutely crazy. I can't believe we actually saw plasma flow like in real time being streamed. Like, sorry, you said it earlier. I was talking about the Silts pod. That was never in real time. I should have clarified there. Like, the only real views we had of the shuttle during reentry was inside of the crew, inside on the flight deck, right? We never saw something like what we saw yesterday. It's frankly ridiculous.
Yeah, the outside perspective, especially from like the edge of the vehicle, was just. I honestly don't know what word to use besides like insanity.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Trevor, I was covering it over on my end, and I was trying to come up with something cool to say, and I'm just like, that's me. All right. Like, didn't know what to say.
Well, I guess for that one, we definitely say, in terms of the plasma, decided to go with the flow.
All right. We're changing course here. Guess what time it is, Chad? It's time for supersonic retropropulsion. My favorite part, the entry burn. It's the best part.
It's weird actually hearing the full name for it. So, in the words of the Daleks, explain.
So, supersonic retropropulsion, the entry burn for Falcon 9, it's not only slowing it down, but it's actually providing a thermal barrier for Falcon 9. The engine's outgassing actually envelops the booster in a cooler column of gas. That is the heat shield. What you're looking at right there, that's the heat shield. That's how the Falcon 9 doesn't burn up in the atmosphere. I mean, obviously, you get benefits from firing the rocket engine to slow it down, but it's doing basically the same exact thing that an ablative heat shield would do. An ablative heat shield that you'd find on a pod would just burn off, and it envelops the pod in a nice, cool column of gas. You know, SpaceX, with some help from some NASA studies on Martian entry, descent, and landing, figured like, oh, we could just fire the rocket engines on our booster, and it does the same thing. It's fantastic. Oh, there's some plasma on the grid fins. All right.
So technically, they already had plasma. Then that makes it less cool with Starship. No, I'm kidding.
That is the burn that Super Heavy looks down upon. It says entry burn.
Yeah,
I am made of stainless steel. I don't need this.
We don't
You
need
don't
no
need no stinking entry burn.
Yes, my guy. All right.
Did we just do that at the same time?
I hope that synced. Chat, did that sync? Please tell me it did. We just become best friends. Want to go do karate in the garage? Yep.
Oh my gosh.
We have a poll in chat. Best launch of the week: Starlink 644 and Starship Flight 3. I voted 644.
I mean, one of them had a successful booster recovery, or hopefully will in the next couple seconds here.
Don't jinx this, man.
All right,
It's a 19th
all right.
flight. Did you put that evil on me?
Well, let's
There's
see then.
landing burn.
Here,
All right, here we
prove
go.
us wrong, or prove us right. B1062.
Wait, what?
Land, please land. How about that?
Survive.
There is a short ball of gravitas.
All right.
There is the booster. There is the landing legs. And there is my announcer's
center.
curse, thankfully not coming into play.
That is
Dude.
SpaceX's 284th booster landing and 210th consecutive.
Unbelievable.
Dang.
Unbelievable. You can see that from the world view there that is flying on the south trajectory for Starlink. Still crazy. Unbelievable. That never gets old. I don't know about you guys. Like, I don't get to hang around here in NSF chat much for the launches, but when I do, I geek out over Falcon. No, it's
Stay
It's
nerdy,
fun.
my
That's-
friends.
yeah, right. Stay nerdy, my friends. It's amazing. That never gets old for me. It's still cool. Like, I know Falcon Starlink has gotten a little boring lately, but I mean, that's a 15-story building that just landed with like sub-meter precision on a drone ship after being over the Kármán line easily and just came right back down. It just, no, it's there. No problem.
For the 19th time.
Right? Yeah, 19 times. Yeah, exactly. Right? You'd be hard-pressed to find anything in the space program that's been used 19 times, except for, obviously, the shuttles, which are God tier.
Yeah, that's now B1062-20.
I'll take it.
Almost old enough to drink in the U.S.
Europeans are like, ha ha, pathetic.
And now there's the debate going on in chat of, are we geeks or are we nerds?
Girds? I prefer girds, actually.
No, that's acid reflux. I prefer not having that.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right.
Anyway, another successful SpaceX mission this week. Just adding it on. It's kind of funny. Someone before tonight had pointed out launches this week: Starship 1, Falcon 9, 0. They're now tied.
Huh. Yeah, that's right.
We are tied for number of Starship and Falcon 9 launches this week. So, pretty cool.
I'm not upset. I'm not upset. This is great.
Yeah. Now, I do want to continue to thank a bunch of people here that have been giving us generous support while the launches and all this other insanity has been going on.
Commence with the thanking.
Musical Wolves saying, I was surprised they announced 3X Saturn V thrust eventuality. And then Musical Wolves also asking, did Falcon 9 have sloshing issues during recovery at first?
I don't ever recall that actually happening. I think it was more getting the thing aligned. Now, keep in mind that the entry burn is going to help you with propellant settling, right? It's not just, I mean, the entry burn will definitely help. So I don't ever recall them having trouble with prop slosh, but I don't think I knew what prop slosh was when they were first trying to land Falcon 9. So
for Alex in the back channel, the answer is yes, it did.
Yes, they did. There
Yes, in all caps.
That's the whole reason for the grid fins, in fact, because of roll rates during entering the atmosphere, creating huge slosh issues.
There you go.
Also, Alex is pointing out something really interesting in the back channel that I didn't realize during yesterday's stream. So Super Heavy's peak speed at entry was 4,330 kilometers an hour. And Falcon 9 at the end of entry burn today was at like 5,100 kilometers an hour. So without an entry burn, Super Heavy is already entering substantially slower. So I guess that just means like, you know, you have, that's I think from two things. First of all, staging is a little bit slower. And then also, you know, you have more surface area. So the atmosphere can do a little bit more work. But that's an interesting stat. Thank you for finding that, Alex.
Yeah, Alex, that's a good one. I mean, isn't it also with Super Heavy that its staging velocity is a lot lower? Like staging velocity would be higher, altitude at staging would be lower. So it doesn't fly on as high of a ballistic arc as Falcon 9 would, right? That I think Alex confirm that one for me. Alex, analysis.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, memes.
Yeah, and this just goes to really highlight the entire Super Heavy Starship flight profile is just
Bananas.
SpaceX engineers thinking like, how can we get more performance out of this? And then they come up with some clever solution, like, you know, what you're about to see on screen with hot staging. You know, that maneuver, they say, is eventually going to get them 10% more payload to orbit, since that reduces, you know, some losses that a normal staging maneuver has. The boost back burn being all 13 engines at what we can assume to be fairly high throttle, that helps reduce some of those losses from traveling further downrange. The landing burn being 13 engines is going to make sure they have essentially no gravity losses during that burn. Like this rocket is just next level bananas.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm in complete concurrence. Super Heavy. This is what I was trying to say. Like, even with the sequenced ignition a little bit earlier, like lighting 33 engines is ridiculous, and then doing everything that you just said, like on top of that, is I think we're getting a little spoiled. This is not an easy thing to do, and they are making it look very simple. It's kind of ridiculous.
Very true. Also, Musical Wolf saying, how not to land largest booster video soon?
Oh, I wish. That'd be great.
I'd rather be flying an X-Wing saying, 5-year goal for Starbase Live. Rideshare a small camera satellite for 24/7 views of Earth from orbit with elevator music.
I don't hate this idea.
Choclad C, going back earlier, we were talking about metric and imperial, saying that's immaterial. I like it. I like
Pay
it.
up. Pay up.
Worth it. Roseanne saying, disappointed that reruns of Starship have usurped the joy of watching tonight's Falcon launch. I think we still got some joy out of it.
I think that was probably before we, that was when we were just all in on talking about Starship.
Still. Grits, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Donna, thank you for becoming a Pad Rat member. Steve with the $10 super chat saying, Trevor likes Taylor Swift? No wonder he thinks 120 FPS looks better than 24 FPS, even though 24 has higher quality per frame, assuming compression, which is everything.
I'm a man of correct opinions. What can I say?
Oh, really? You gotta bring the film into this?
I'll save my opinion that 24 FPS is awful for when Jack is on stream.
But it isn't. I'm a Jack on this one. I'm sorry. Let's see here. We've got Rankley with a tip with a really interesting question, too. If IFT-1 is the Rock NATO flight, IFT-2 is the hot staging flight, IFT-3 is the re-entry flight, what would you predict IFT-4's name would be? I'm going to start with you, EJ.
Bring in the heat flight, because it's going to make it all the way through re-entry.
Okay. Trevor?
I think the soft splashdown flight, yeah, because, I think they'll have learned a lot for Super Heavy. I suspect next Super Heavy successfully makes that soft splashdown. And then one thing that we actually haven't talked about yet is how good the heat shield looked after it was on orbit. There were not many tiles missing after that work that they did, which is definitely a promising sign to me that that when they're actually in the correct attitude, Ship 29 will be able to successfully re-enter. So let's just cross our fingers that IFT-4, both vehicles reach the Gulf of Mexico and Indian Ocean, respectively.
Yeah.
I think they'll do it.
I think it's going to be the water flight in a good way.
Yeah.
Everything will make it down to the water exactly as planned. Let's see here. XOR asking, do we know how far off the booster was to its soft landing position? Do we know in terms of location if it was right on track, or was it still kind of speedy?
I think
it was on track.
Maybe a piece of it probably got close. A piece of it, maybe.
There you go. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, everything up to that point looked really good. May have been a little spinny wobbly, but seemed pretty close.
I mean, if that thing rutted where it rutted and the telemetry was on par, or I said termination system before, that was wrong. If it encountered like a hard start, guys, look at how fast that thing's going. The last bit of telemetry, that we got from it was going really fast. So it looks at what Trevor was saying before. It looks like it was right, but you'd be hard pressed to find any piece of that thing anywhere.
Yeah,
this thing, what was left of it hit the water in the transonic regime, which is, there's nothing left. Yep, dude. I don't know. Is that water? Is that water there? Like from that last frame, it looks like it is, but I don't know if it is.
I think it.
It looks like you could see some waves down there just for like the last second.
It looks like it's just barely water there. Yeah.
It definitely came up real quick.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, oh, here's the ocean. We lost signal.
Yeah. Look at the clouds. Yeah, crazy.
So cool. While we're talking about the telemetry, Kraganov saying, based on the telemetry shown, I guess 5 engines didn't relight, 2 more were lost on landing burn of the booster. Is that a good guess, or would they have made the difference?
It looks like way more than 5 didn't relight. I think they had maybe 2. I think maybe for a brief second the diagram had 3, and they were going for 13. So they have a little bit of work to do on that, but unfortunately we don't know exactly what happened. My guess is it's not that big of a problem. Right, we saw all 13 successfully ignite for the boost back burn. So then it's just, my guess is something happened to one of them that caused a hard start during that while igniting for the landing burn, and it seemed like the vehicle was having some other general issues, as I was saying earlier, since they couldn't really control that oscillation. So I don't know. I'm not too worried about it for Flight 4.
Yeah, I think they'll hit it out of the park. The rate of iteration that we're seeing is nuts.
Yeah, prepare for ludicrous iteration speed.
Go!
And along those lines, Elmad also saying, I switched to the feed and noticed it looked like the Pez door didn't close all the way, and there was a lot of debris, potentially tiles, falling off there. Do you think that could be a cause? So, did you guys notice the payload bay door not fully closing? And it looked like it was going pretty well from what we saw originally.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they didn't quite get that thing all the way shut. I don't know if that had to do with maybe the induced roll or what, but it did look like it kind of jumped around a little bit for a second. And when they tried to close it, I mean, whether it's binding up or not, I'm not sure. I mean, I think the payload bay door is very much not necessarily like a placeholder, but it's definitely something that like they're going to change even a little bit in the future. Like we don't know if like it looks like it kind of bound up, but maybe it's because it's rolling. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I don't think like tiles or anything got in its way or something. I think just the mechanism bound up. But I mean, I don't know. Chad, what do you think? Trevor, what do you think?
Yeah, it definitely didn't look nominal. It's also kind of hard to tell if it ever fully opened. There's just this sliver of light, and it definitely seems like it didn't close nominally. But again, it's a prototype. I'm sure that fix will be incredibly minor.
Yeah, I mean, the design, we know starships. The design is constantly in flux due to rapid iteration. I'm sure we'll see something that will work sooner rather than later. But, I mean, this, in the words of Edison, they just found a way to not make the payload bay door. Like, that probably shouldn't make it like that.
Yeah.
That's useful. That is useful information.
I'm also now very hungry because the Pez dispenser got jammed.
Yep.
Somehow I want jam and Pez, and that's actually kind of disgusting sounding, but I would still eat it.
You'd eat Pez in jam?
With a jammed Pez dispenser, yeah. Hey, at least it wasn't a cheese wheel, too. That would have made the combination even worse.
I get the reference. You're not wrong, but you're not wrong.
Hey, I can at least say that. I'll take it.
Yeah,
you're not wrong is something I'll always take.
Yep.
And I do want to mention here, Stabby Unicorn with the $100 tip from tips.nasaspaceflight.com.
Hey.
Just coming in with heart as the comment. Thank you so much for the generosity on that. That is unbelievable. I really, again, the only reason we're able to bring you all these views that we've been able to show you this stream, between the fact that we had Max tracking the launch for Starlink 6-44 here, and Max and a whole bunch of others also down yesterday at Starbase, getting all the pictures and videos from Flight 3. I mean, wow. Yeah, thank you. It's that support that allows us to do that. So thank you very, very much, Stabby Unicorn.
These awesome views are contributed from viewers like you. Dung, dung, dung.
Yeah, see, that's because of you guys. Unbelievable. Thank you again, Stabby Unicorn there.
Well, Credence, I was pointing at Stabby that time, not you. Not you, Stabby. I see you out there. Don't think I can't.
Okay, I'm gonna go put some tape over my webcam now then. Parker
it's not nice to point.
Getting a knife from the store saying thank you for all that you do. Can't wait for IFT4. Same. And then Bob the Concrete Ship saying, I hope we can get a full view of re-entry next time with a controlled entry. Oh, let that happen. Please let that happen.
Trevor, Trevor, you think? Yeah, me too, man. Do you think they're going to? They'd get a Starlink uninterrupted all the way through, Starlink signal through reentry, all the way through entry descent?
I honestly, yeah. So my limited understanding is that the point of reentry that they got to was getting to the highest peak of, or the highest flux rate of plasma, so when they have the most. So I would conjecture that it probably won't get too much harder to maintain signal than it did on this flight. However, I want to add a huge asterisk to that I don't, I haven't modeled this at all myself. So, and this is just going off of what I think I remember from Shuttle and, Dragon and other entry vehicles. But I feel pretty good about it. Starlink just, I know the word of this episode has, been insane, crazy, unbelievable, stuff like that. But Starlink just performed insanely well.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you. Sawyer, what do you think? You think it'll get it? I mean, we got Tidris with the shuttle. I don't see why we wouldn't get, Starlink with Starship all the way down.
I completely agree 100%. We're going to get that video. It may drop out for a little bit. Like, we were hoping that the video signal was just a dropout, not a problem with the actual ship. So I could see it dropping out maybe a little bit, but otherwise, we're going to see the whole thing. With Tidris, the continuous upgrades to the Starlink network, which, I'll be honest, I'm impressed Starlink has come as far as it has. I was a little skeptical, but having used it, it works. It's crazy. So I'm going to say we're going to get at least 99% of it, assuming it makes it all the way down, maybe with a little bit of a plasma blackout.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to add, like, this entirely has to do with where the plasma is kind of accumulating around the vehicle. Now, the plasma, it'll leave a shock. It'll actually get pushed out to the sides in kind of a three-dimensional cone around the vehicle. If there's an antenna, like with Starlink, for instance, or Tidris, that's behind the vehicle when it's coming in, right? You have good line of sight to that antenna that's not getting disrupted by plasma. Now, once again, with the shuttle, we got it through Tidris, but sometimes you didn't, depending on where the shuttle was going, depending on, if it was at a high inclination, right? You might not get a signal of Tidris, like looking at the shuttle going through reentry, like at the right angle, right? But there are way more Starlink satellites, and they're a lot, well, not that this matters that much. I mean, it kind of does, but they're a lot closer. They'll definitely be a lot closer. Like the Tidris is like, what, 37,000 kilometers up there? They're in geosynchronous, right? Starlink is in a, like 500 kilometer low Earth orbit at higher inclinations at, like, 54 degrees inclined? You could conceivably get reentry footage from any return inclination, like any inclination orbit. You could even get, like, theoretically, you could get entry footage coming back, like if Starship ever came back from a retrograde orbit, so like going the opposite way the Earth spins. I think, yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you guys, even though I asked the question. I think that it's totally possible. Like, and if we go back, Patrick, real quick, we'll do this. We'll wrap this up real fast. You go back to look at the launch footage. The antennas are on the leeward side of Starship. It was the same thing with the space shuttle. The antennas, the short band antennas on the space shuttle are actually on the top of the flight deck. They're kind of in between the two windows that were on the top of the shuttle. The one that you'd use for like payload deployment operations. The antenna is right up there. So when the shuttle was coming in, you had line of sight to that antenna. You could definitely get a signal, right? With Starship, it's the same thing. Same idea, but a lot more satellites and a lot more odds of getting good line of sight.
Hey, I know that vehicle.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So that picture has the KU band antenna that was inside of the payload bay. That obviously wouldn't be open during entry, descent, and landing. There's another antenna that's actually in the, like, it's up by the two windows, right? At the, like, basically over where the pilot and the commander are sitting.
The top-down view, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they would deploy the high gain antenna out of the payload bay to get a better signal, but you could still get signal through with the short band antennas.
Exactly. There you go. Yeah, I think we'll see it, and I'm excited to see it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing. Yeah, right where Patrick was moving that mouse.
Yeah.
Like right there.
Well, even though we didn't get to see the full re-entry, don't forget you can rep the fact that it re-entered at all with our special re-entry club merch available at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, celebrating the fact it hit the atmosphere, we saw the plasma, and now you can show it off to everyone on shirts and all of those fun items in the shop. Continuing along for that totally seamless plug there.
We're getting to like LTT levels of segues here. It's pretty good.
No comment. Anonymous saying, thank you for the coverage. Got to see the launch yesterday from South Padre Island and also getting one of the metal prints of the IFT-3 launch. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. There's been just amazing support from everyone there. David Campbell gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much for helping to contribute to the community. Bob Fillmore asking, do you think they'll build a drone ship for Starship? Kind of like Blue Origin? Trevor?
Yeah, I think it's quite unlikely, right? All of the problems that we were talking about earlier of transporting these things apply also to a vehicle who landed downrange on a drone ship. I think SpaceX wants to get to a point where it's just more economical and easier to have, say, 2 launches than to do one that would have increased performance from landing downrange. But that said, you are correct that like Blue Origin, as Blue Origin's been getting more active on their Twitter account. They teased the other day that they're planning on pursuing recovery on drone ships downrange, which is kind of something we already knew. They made a small switch from Jacqueline, which Jeff Bezos bought this. I think it was basically a cruise ship and named it after his grandmother. And then they scrapped the whole thing.
Oh, no.
And now we're going to these drone ships similar to SpaceX. But so that'll be exciting.
Which I will say hello to my grandma and that I would never scrap her. I promise.
Huh?
Moving on. There it is. Yeah.
What?
I should
What's happening?
Boats.
Oh, his mom, not grandma. Sorry.
Okay. Hi, Mom.
I don't know if
Same
that's
to you.
better. I don't know if that's better or worse, dude. Like, I don't know if that's better. Wait a minute.
Yeah, here, Mom. I named a boat for you, and it's scrapped.
No, never mind. I'm just gonna scrap.
Oh, geez. Varangian asking, considering they were dismantling some of the Florida launch mount, is it possible that they will ship that ring to Texas that we were talking about earlier? I think it's got itself marked for Florida. Plus, with something that heavy and that big, I know we kind of talked about it with Starship itself, but you can't point to point an orbital launch tower. So how is that ring going to go anywhere? And it is worth pointing out again that they never really dismantled anything. They just kind of stopped working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say definitely not going to Texas.
I mean, that's it's good that you asked that. That's the reason why I asked about 39A to these boys a little bit earlier. Because, I was wondering. I'm like, well, what are you doing with that? I just amidst all the dang space news that's going on, I didn't even realize they moved the OLM. I was like, wait, they did that? Oh yeah, they did that. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, Harry coming in clutch with the awesome satellite imagery of seeing the ring there too. But Alex pointing out that a lot of sorry, the transitions. Alex pointing out that a lot of it is them raising, getting everything raised up and ready so that they can put the OLM on top of it. Because, again, keep in mind the tower at KSC is a little different from what they had at Starbase. They've made the changes, especially since Flight 1. It's a little bit taller now. You've got the water deluge system below it. There's been major changes, so we'll see what else they end up having to do in Florida to kind of adjust to what they've learned down in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, doesn't it have like shorter chopsticks than the one in Boca?
It does. Oh, much shorter, yeah.
Yeah, then that's...
They're like the T-Rex hands as opposed to actual hands.
Yes. Dinosaurs. All right. Raptors are already there. Yeah, no, it makes sense. The T-Rex would corral the raptors. Makes perfect sense to me, Sawyer. Like, just saying.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah, see? Yeah. I did what you did.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, all right. I did the thing.
I do want to hit this one from Gunfox with a $50 tip from tips.nasaspaceflight.com saying, once Starship gets going with more launches, which will have more launches per week/month? Falcon 9 or Starship? If I had to put my money for now, it's still going to be Falcon 9. What do you think, Trevor?
Short term, definitely Falcon 9, right? We were seeing them ramping up their launch cadence. I've actually been, the past few days, doing a lot of analysis on such data. And by the end of the year, it's certainly looking like SpaceX will be reaching 13 to 14 Falcon launches per month.
That's...
Yeah,
wow.
Which is just insane. So that actually puts them somewhat on track to their 148 Falcon launch goal. That said, long term, I think 13 launches a month is going to look like nothing. I think Starship will eventually get to the point where there are hundreds of these things flying, and that'll be an exciting day.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to see both of them flying.
I mean, just... we'll touch on it. I mean, Trevor, you've been tracking the Falcon 9 stuff. Like, I want to point out that even if Starship didn't exist and SpaceX was just doing this with Falcon 9, that's already breaking the mold with any type of spaceflight endeavor at all. And then on top of that, you just have, this thing, double, maybe even triple someday the thrust of the Saturn V, 33 engines, fully reusable. I mean, what they're doing with Falcon 9 is already nuts. That's no one's ever done that. Like, we're in uncharted territory here. Like, in the past, we've been like, reuse. We know what reuse is because we've seen the shuttle before. We know how that works, right? Or, we're going to go back to the moon. We know how that works. We've seen this before. No one's ever done this. We've never seen this before. 13 launches in a month is ridiculous. That even if you told EJ, past me, or even Sawyer or Trevor, this, if you told us this 5 years ago, we would look at you funny. We'd be like, if somebody asked that you ever think they'd launch 13 times a month? If we were on a panel like this, we'd probably be like, maybe in the future, but probably not. You're like, right? It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, especially this soon.
Right? Just out of the blue. Just, all right, yeah, we're just going to target almost 150 a year. Whatever. It's no problem.
And all of that with the fact that it's happening so soon, I think goes into our next question here perfectly. Spirit of Starship with the tip saying, thanks for the awesome coverage. Do you think they only make changes on the next ship booster and wait for verification that they work before implementing them on the ones beyond that? And the most important question of them all, when Flight 4?
I can start with the first part of that, and then EJ can start speculation on flight date.
Cool.
The answer is definitely not. SpaceX has begun upgrades on ships that haven't even flown yet. Like Ship 28 started being manufactured well ahead of, I think even ahead of IFT-1, but definitely well before IFT-2. So that just shows that even among testing and among building these vehicles, SpaceX is learning a tremendous amount, and they're putting those lessons on to Ship 28. So from the outside, Ship 28 definitely looks somewhat similar to Ship 25, but Elon posted on X ahead of launch, there were thousands of small changes on Ship 28, and not all of those are because of data that they learned from launch. That said, there will be retrofits almost certainly on Ship 29 from the data that they learned on Ship 28 being in orbit. But speaking of Ship 29, EJ, Sawyer, when?
I'm gonna build off what you were saying there for a second. Personally, all right, I'm just gonna go say I would say April 20th, just because. But I think yeah, you're absolutely right, dude. They're taking. Yeah, I'm saying it just because I know it's the number. I get it. I think so SpaceX is doing what's called parallel processing, and they're taking that to the next level because it's not just about mass producing. Like it's not just about building, the next Starship and then, applying changes from one to the other. There are changes that they make to Starship, I'll bet you, that have to do with manufacturing this. I kind of let the cat out of the bag with what I was trying to say, because this is not only designed to be something that's the biggest booster, fully reusable, but it's also something that's designed to be mass produced. And mass production and figuring mass production into your design definitely changes the stakeholder expectations for how the vehicle is made. Stainless steel is a perfect example of that. Switching to stainless steel so you could actually manufacture it on a reasonable timeline. That's exactly what I'm getting at here. So they have, Elon said they made thousands of changes. That's because they're doing parallel processing. And some of those changes aren't necessarily something that you might learn from flight, but it's something that you might learn from manufacturing the thing, from putting the thing together. Like, oh, maybe we can, stack these 2 rings first and then stack those 2 rings later. Oh, no. Let's not do that. Let's try something different for Ship 29. But I agree with you. And with all that said, I'll say April 20th. It's probably not going to be April 20th. I said that for the memes. I would say more likely, because the FAA did open another mishap report from what I understand. It's probably going to be May or June, if I had to guess. It's sometime in the early summer. Sawyer, what about you?
Yeah, I hate to kind of be on the pessimistic side of it, but I do agree, just based off of the fact that they technically have to do the mishap investigation again. I mean, they've been getting quicker, especially since there's been fewer items on each list that they've had to fix now. But I'm sure SpaceX themselves are going to want to make a few minor changes and tweaks to their procedures, maybe do some additional testing that might push it a little bit longer than, say, April or May. I'm going to go with the first week of June is my prediction of when it would be. And Trevor, I'm not letting you off the hook either. We still need to hear your prediction.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think late May, early June sounds very reasonable.
Yeah.
That said, I hope SpaceX proves me wrong. I think, Elon has said on X 6 more flights this year, which 6 more flights this year ain't happening. But it still goes to show the flight rate that they're wanting to have. So, it was November was the last one to March. I could see, late May, early June seems very reasonable in my opinion. Could be a little bit earlier than that, could be a little bit later than that, depending on how serious the modifications they need to make are. Yeah.
Now, with that being said, I think we can all agree that we are jonesing for the next one. I don't know about you guys, but from what I saw yesterday, I'm like, please, can we do this again? Like right now?
Yeah,
I want another launch. Please. Yeah, dude, for real. I'm like, I need another one. I need another one of these. I didn't know I needed another one, but I need another one like right now. I don't have a problem, I swear.
No, not at all.
I need more.
Y'all got any more of them Starship launches? Y'all got any more of those?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Hey, don't look at me like that. You know what I mean. If you're watching this stream, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I can feel the judgment through the stream, okay?
You don't even need to feel it through the stream. Just look on camera.
Yeah, we're Starship junkies.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, trust me. No, I get it. I used to like to joke that rocket launches are worse than illegal substances because those are easier to get than a rocket launch. This was obviously pre-SpaceX going like 100 times a year, but yeah. I promise I don't use them. I swear. I passed the company drug test. Don't worry.
We have a company drug test?
Yeah, yours is tomorrow. Good luck.
Oh, I gotta
go. Methane Man coming in with store message saying, Methane Man here, joining the re-entry club, which appreciate you getting some of those items. And Methane Man, always love seeing your name and appreciate the support coming from that as well. El Mad, who said, as I saw the ship was rolling, that potentially caused the Starlink interruptions. It could be, and also with Tidris as well. And Brian saying, talk of Tidris, do we know the data rate of the system? Tons of parameters, tiny little tube. I don't know if we have an exact number for the Tidris data rate live, right?
No, I don't think so. I don't know. And if we do, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure
A
somebody
quick
on the internet has that
Google
information
says-
somewhere.
Yeah, a quick Google search says 525 kilobits per second, but take that with a huge grain of salt.
I mean, it probably varies because of space meteorological conditions, right? Like, you're probably going to get some flare-ups from like solar radiation and stuff.
Also,
DJ,
is
it's
it
weird?
multiple
Yes.
throughput? Because there's a lot of other craft using TDRS.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Bandwidth is at a premium, which once again, I know we're broken record over here. We had reentry live streamed to us in high definition yesterday. Like, we sound like a broken record, but that is insane. That's ridiculous. Like, I'm here for it. I'm here for it, man. It's great.
I was trying to TDRS up with a joke to end it, but I couldn't come up with one.
Don't do that again. Don't, please.
Pun tokens. Okay. I gotta say, I'm gonna be a little selfish here and plug something. In case you don't know, NSF puts out a lot of short form content too. I mean, within a couple hours, we had both a full replay of the launch and a shorts version of a replay of the launch on our YouTube Shorts. So if you don't already check them out, you really should. Plus, you get some of the awesome photos before you get to see them on some of the other places that we have here and in some of those videos. So make sure you check out the Facebook page, the Instagram, the Twitter. I hate saying this, the TikTok. Yes, there is an NSF TikTok.
No. We do it for the gram here. Okay?
We do it for the gram, right? I'm waiting.
We do it for the gram.
To see Jack do a dance in a kilt on TikTok. We need to make that happen.
No, it's for the gram, man.
Just saying. That's what we need. But and Tumblr and MySpace. And no, I'm kidding. But definitely check out the socials. I have a lot of fun creating some of that short form content that you get to see. Some really cool views, stuff that you wouldn't see anywhere else. So make sure you check it out. So a huge shout out to the social team as well that works on getting some of these cool pictures up and videos in addition to what we do vertical as well as the horizontal stuff. So thank you. And I guess that wraps things up here. So I should also point out the people that are with us you should probably follow too, including EJ. Thank you for being with me here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Okay, so I like to joke, I like to have a good time, but in all seriousness, I don't take being on here lightly, and I do appreciate it. Everybody out there, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for all the support. Truly, it's an honor being on here and making a fool of myself constantly, which hey, I enjoy doing. I'm on the internet, it's going to happen, right?
You do it anyway all the time.
Yeah, that's what you get being in front of the camera on the internet all day. It's fine. But anyway, seriously, thank you for having me, everybody. I do appreciate it. Sawyer, thanks for having me here. It's so fun. I have a good time doing this, and I hope you guys do too.
Absolutely. And Trevor, with the Taylor references coming in, I think there are more Taylor references than puns this stream, so thanks for joining.
Yeah, there was one last super chat for you, though, from Music Wolves saying that Starship's first payload will be a pun token, which I thought you would very much appreciate. But anyway, like, as always, thank you, everyone who just coming here to spend some time with us. Thanks for liking. And for those people who went above and beyond, it really is what allowed us to bring all of those live camera views for the awesome flight we saw yesterday, for the Starlink launch we saw today. It's remarkable that we're able to do this with just community support. So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much. And then I'd like to thank myself. That's how it's written in the back channel.
I'll thank you, Sawyer. Thank you, Sawyer, for hosting. You're amazing. And your cat is cool and he's sleeping behind you. Don't look at it, though. He might get up.
I don't see him back there anymore. He was laying on his back behind me a moment ago, yeah.
Must have moved.
He was just showing off of like, I'm back here, just chilling. But yeah.
Be very still. His vision is based off movement.
But always a pleasure to host this. I'm so glad to be back to NSF Live after a couple of weeks of some things that kept me off the air here health-wise, but
Yeah,
back.
man. It's good to have you back.
We're great. And yes, Chaos Crew is on its way back. Of course, behind the scenes, we had Patrick, who was helping out as well. So thank you, Patrick, pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, doing the cube transitions, the radial wipes, all of the crazy fun stuff. It's always appreciated. And you know who else we really appreciate? Our members. Viewers like you, in particular, our launch directors and flight engineers, whose names, as you see, get posted at the end of every NSF Live as one of your perks of joining at such a high level.
Look at all these people here.
I love all the names here. It continues to grow, too.
We should read every single one of them off.
I'll let you do that, EJ.
No, I'm just kidding. I want to see if you do it.
Yeah, we'll be here till the next NSF Live if we do that. No, but genuinely, every single person on there, we really do appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, of course, for watching and joining. Don't forget, we have these Friday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, and hopefully we will see you for the next one, as well as our other live streams likely coming up this week as launches continue. Until then, as mentioned, I'm Sawyer Rosenstein for NSF. Later, geeks and nerds.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, Atlantic.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! 125! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it? Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? Sure. We don't need any more of these.